It's ultimately where we had this monster supercell that developed and then continued to push 100 miles.
And for some of you, it'll be a 1-2 punch.
Winds gusting up to 60 miles an hour. Also, I can't rule out a brief spin-up tornado.
On March 10th, 2026, a hailstone over 6 inches fell in Kankakee, Illinois, potentially a new state record. NOAA's Storm Prediction Center issued a level 4 out of 5 severe storm threat across the Midwest, and most independent adjusters are still at home. If you don't understand the order of operations, how the workforce actually deploys catastrophe adjusters, from carrier staff teams to veteran IAs to newer adjusters, you're gonna be waiting by the phone wondering why nobody's calling. I'm Matt, and in my nearly 3 decades in this industry, I have trained thousands of successful independent property adjusters, and in this video, I break down the trickle-down deployment model and why the clock is already running, why the 2026 atmospheric setup is unlike a typical spring, and what 1974 has to do with it, the 60-day severe outlook for April and May, exactly what you should be doing right now to position yourself for this season, and finally, why the line in front of you might be shorter than you think. The atmosphere is loaded and the season is just getting started, and if history is any guide, what we saw on March 10th isn't the whole story, it's just the opening chapter. And speaking of what separates the adjusters who stay deployed from the ones who go home early when you're on CAT, speed and accuracy are everything. Hague Education's damage ID training and field reference books help you scope faster and write better estimates. And their HCI and HCR certifications tell carriers and IA firms that you know your stuff. And what are those? HCI is Hague Certified Inspector, which is their exterior and roof inspector certification, and HCR is the Hague Certified Reviewer for desk and file review training. That combination keeps you productive and deployed longer. Check them out at hagueeducation.com and use code ADJUSTERTV to save some cash. Clock on the season is already running, so let's get into it, starting now. Every spring, the same thing happens. Storms fire up, claims start rolling in, and newer adjusters are sitting by the phone asking, why isn't anybody calling me yet? And here is the answer. There's an order of operations in this industry, and it kind of runs like this. First, the carriers are going to activate their internal staff CAT teams. These are salaried employees. The carriers want storms closed fast, right? Cycle time is money, so they throw everything that they've got at it right out of the gate. But those teams have limits. There are only so many of them. And when the next storm fires up, and the next one after that, while they're still working this first one, they're going to start running out of resources. So that's when the phone calls start going to veteran independent adjusters, the people who've been on rosters for years, who carriers and IA firms know can show up and produce. But again, if those adjusters are already deployed on previous storms and more storms keep coming in, the IA firms start reaching deeper into their rosters. And this is when newer people start getting calls. That's this kind of trickle-down idea we're talking about here. And here's the thing about 2026 specifically. There's a factor that's going to accelerate this process faster than normal, but we'll get to that in just a second. I want to talk about something that the meteorologists are kind of flagging because I think it matters for how you think about the next 60, 90 days, right? Every year, forecasters look at what's happening in the Pacific Ocean, specifically the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO, because it has a major influence on severe weather patterns in the US. Right now, we're coming out of a La Nina, and that La Nina is collapsing fast. It's transitioning towards neutral and potentially into El Nino by the summer. What does that even mean? Well, that specific setup, a rapidly decaying La Nina in spring, has a historical analog that should get your attention. It's the year Richard Nixon resigned, 1974. The winter of 1973 to 74 was a strong La Nina, just like this year, this last winter season. By spring, it was collapsing towards neutral, right? Sound familiar? On April 3rd and 4th of 1974, in roughly 24 hours, 148 tornadoes touched down across 13 states, from Michigan to Mississippi, Illinois to the Carolinas, and 335 people were killed, over 6,000 were injured, and more than 30,000 structures destroyed or damaged. It is still, decades later, it is still the most intense tornado outbreak in recorded history in the US. And here is the thing that the meteorologists keep coming back to. This wasn't random. The rapidly decaying La Nina created a volatile atmospheric transition. The jet stream was still loaded with energy from the winter pattern, but the warm season moisture was surging north, and that collision was catastrophic. And the lesson from 1974, and I want to be totally clear about this, nobody's predicting any kind of super outbreak, but the lesson is this: a decaying La Nina doesn't mean decaying weather. It often means the opposite. And we already have the receipts. March 10th, 2026, right? 6-inch hail in Illinois. Tornadoes across Iowa, Indiana, Illinois. A level 4 severe weather threat, one step below the highest rating that the Storm Prediction Center issues. In March. So what does the next 60 days actually look like? Well, here's what the forecasters are saying. March and early April, this is kind of the hot zone right now. The most consistent severe weather corridor is going to be the Eastern Plains, the mid-Mississippi Valley, and the Western Ohio Valley. This is where we've already been hit, and it's not done. Through April, the action shifts more towards the Mississippi River Valley. This is historically one of the most tornado-prone corridors in the country during peak spring season. Focus into May moves towards traditional tornado alley. Central Texas, up through eastern Nebraska. The Western Plains start lighting up as the atmosphere gets fully loaded for summer. Now, the forecasters are calling 2026 a front-loaded season. More activity in March and April, potentially quieting a little bit in May. But here's what that means for adjusters. The work window that really matters is right now. It's the next 6 to 8 weeks. The carriers are deploying staff teams on March 10th and storms since then right now. The trickle-down clock has started. So what do you need to do right now? Well, number one, confirm your roster status. Do not assume that you're active. Call your IA firms on the phone. Make sure your name is in front of them before the next wave of assignments goes out. The adjusters who are top of mind when the calls go out are the ones who get deployed. 2, check your adjuster licenses. The states in play right now at this moment: Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Texas, Michigan. Many of those states have licensing requirements. Are you licensed and current in those states? If not, that's a problem that you can fix in the next couple of weeks, this week. So fix it. And it is absolutely critical that you keep your roster profile with your IA firms up to date. If you have a Minnesota license and Minneapolis gets a huge hailstorm, you will only get a deployment call if your profile with your IA firms says you have that license. They cannot read your mind, okay? 3, get your Xactimate skills sharpened up. I don't care if you've been doing this for 15 years. If you have an open Xactimate since last fall, your first batch of claims that you do are going to be slow because you're getting yourself back up to speed. Get back in the software. Run some fake estimate scenarios, sharpen the tool before you need it, not while you're sitting in front of the insurer's house or in your hotel room at 12:30 at night. 4, know your documentation workflow. The adjusters who get redeployed are the ones who close claims, if not on site, then no more than the same day. And don't let bad files generate corrections, supplements, or re-inspections. Speed and accuracy together are what keeps you deployed longer. All right, so you've got a volatile atmospheric setup, a front-loaded season already drawing first blood, and the clock is running. That alone should have you moving. But there's one more factor that makes 2026 specifically a window you don't want to miss. 2025 was a quiet year for storm work in the United States. We had an active hurricane season. There was 3 Category 5 storms, but they all curved away from the mainland. There were 0 U.S. hurricane landfalls in 2025. And the spring severe weather season last year, I mean, there was some work, but it was kind of underwhelming, right? That means that a lot of adjusters who are waiting for work last year stopped waiting. They went back to their old careers. They took other jobs. They let their licenses lapse, okay? You can't blame them. People have bills. You might even be one of them. But what that means for you, whether you're a vet or you're brand new, is that the rosters are thinner than they've been in a while. The people who stayed patient, stayed licensed, and stayed ready, those people are going to move up the queue faster than they normally would, okay? The attrition that hurt the industry last year is about to reward the people who stuck around. And listen, that same atmospheric pattern that's driving this spring setup has implications for the hurricane season this year. The setup for 2026 is genuinely interesting, and it's also genuinely complicated. There are competing signals that make this year maybe a little bit harder to forecast than a typical year. Colorado State University drops their first official hurricane season forecast in April. Okay, that's the gold standard early season outlook, the one that the whole industry watches. And when that forecast drops, we'll get an idea of what the egghead meteorologists think is going to happen later this year. And we'll see, okay? Storm season does not care what month it is. It doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't care if your mother-in-law's birthday is tomorrow night. Fired up in March this year, and based on the atmospheric setup, it's not letting up anytime soon. The adjusters who are positioned right now, those are the adjusters who are going to be working when the trickle down hits their level. And if you want to know exactly everything you need to get your catastrophe adjusting career going step by step, check out this video right here. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great storm.